There are 5 easy poker strategies that have literally skyrocketed my winnings lately, and I think they will for you too. Now, I have used these 5 fundamental strategies throughout my entire professional poker career to get world-class results. So without any further ado, let's jump into it. Number 1, make them pay. Guys, this is the biggest mistake that I still see amateurs making all the time, is letting them draw for cheap. Now, I'm going to give you an example, by the way, for every single tip on this list today. So let's jump into example number 1. You have ace king, that's the ace of hearts and the king of clubs, and a fish calls you. Now, this is one of these recreational players. They just play the game for fun. I'm sure you've encountered these players before. They play all sorts of trashy hands, complete nonsense at times. These are the recreational players. They might be having a couple drinks. They're not watching a video like this, guys. They're just playing for fun. So let's keep that in mind. So flop comes down with the king of diamonds, 10 of spades, and 5 of diamonds. Boom. This is awesome. We have hit top pair, top kicker on this board, an extremely powerful hand. Now, I know we're not always going to hit a hand this strong, and that's why I've made literally hundreds of other videos here on the channel talking about what to do when you don't hit your top pair, but 1 out of every 3 times you are going to hit top pair. So let's talk about what to do in that situation. So long story short, you just want to make the obvious bet here. You guys who have been watching my videos over the years, you know I'm all about keeping things as simple as possible at the poker tables and letting them overthink the situation, letting them think you're on some wild, crazy bluff, which ironically convinces them to make the bad call. So you bet, they call. Beautiful. Turn comes down with the 3 of hearts, a total brick. There's nothing going on this board, guys, but let's talk about that flop once again here to just try to understand what this player can have. Remember, we said this is a fish, so they can have so many different hands, but hopefully you guys noticed that on that king 10-5 flop with 2 diamonds, by the way, there are a ton of different draws, specifically straight draws and flush draws. Let me give you just a few of the plethora of draws that this player can have. A hand like Queen Jack had an open-ended straight draw on that flop, meaning that they can catch any of the 4 remaining aces in the deck or any of the 4 remaining 9s in the deck in order to make a straight. Also, anytime there are 2 cards of the same suit on the flop, anybody who has those cards in their hand will have a flush draw. So if this player has any 2 diamonds, it doesn't matter what they are, they have a legitimate draw, a flush draw. So what do we know about fish? What do we know about recreational players? Well, they don't fold any draws. They chase any draw. You've seen this a million times before, and the way to beat them, guys, is to make them pay. So the total brick comes on the turn here, the 3 of hearts. What should you do? You should bet big. Do not check here. Honestly, I'll just bet the full pot here. I know I'm up against a recreational player. Sometimes I'll even overbet the pot. Now, I know this is not the standard advice that you hear in a lot of videos these days, but I have made a career fleecing these players at the lower limits by using this specific strategy that I'm teaching you right now. Guys, bottom line, do not slow play. Make the fish pay in this situation. This is a draw-heavy board. Do not get fancy here. Do not check. Do not slow play. Make the most obvious play at the poker table and let them overthink the situation. All right, moving on to number 2, take the initiative. So let's talk about raising from the big blinds now. So I'm going to put the table image up on your screen here just for some of you guys who are brand new to poker. And I'll just put the 6-player table up on your screen. You got early position, middle position, cutoff, button, small blind, and big blind. But specifically in this hand, we're talking about the big blind. This is the last seat to act before the flop. And if you're playing in a $1, $2 game, for example, you've put in the $2 and the small blind has put in the $1. These are forced bets before anybody gets dealt a hand. So you pick up a relatively nice hand, the ace 8 of diamonds. By the way, if you want to know every single hand that I suggest playing, I have complete charts and diagrams in my free poker cheat sheet walking you through exactly what hands to play in all situations. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. But you're sitting there in the big blinds and 3 people limp into the pot, which is a common thing in small stakes games, as I'm sure you know. Now, what is limping? Some of you guys might not know. This is when you just call the big blind before the flop. This is something I absolutely suggest that you never do, by the way, because you are simply announcing your weakness to the table and you're not taking control. That's how you win in poker, is by taking control. Aggressive poker is winning poker. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. When we see 3 people announce their weakness to the table, limp into the pot, I'm simply going to raise it up big here, guys. And what do I mean by big? Honestly, I'm going to make it 10 times the blind, 20 times the blind, whatever amount is ideally going to get me one color. This is going to vary depending on what games you're playing in, what stakes you're playing in. But bottom line, guys, you like free money, right? I like free money. Everybody likes free money. When everybody limps into the pot like this, they're literally just dropping their money on the table, and now it's just up to you to pick it up, make a big raise, take control of the pot, and you're going to win a lot more. All right, moving on to number 3, re-raise them back. So let's talk about making them fold now by re-raising back with your draws. Now, this is a little bit more of an advanced play, but this play will 100% skyrocket your winnings, especially versus this specific aggressive player type that we're going to talk about right now. So you raise it up with the 7-6 of spades, a beautiful little suited connector that I like to play in a lot of different situations, and one of these aggressive regs calls you. Now, reg in poker stands for regular. This is a typical player that you see day in and day out at the poker tables. They are watching videos like this. They do take the game seriously. They're trying to win, but they're not all great players. Luckily, most of them still have significant weaknesses these days, and the aggro reg tends to play a little bit too aggressive. This is often called a loose and aggressive maniac as well. This is actually a style that I play a lot of the time myself because it puts people on tilt, but that's a topic for another video. But anyways, this is a common play style in today's game. Some people do it well, some people don't do it so well, but I'm going to teach you right now how to beat this specific play style. So the flop comes down with the 8 of hearts, ace of diamonds, and 5 of clubs. They make a bet into you. Now, this is a common play that you'll see with aggressive regs, is they'll often just lead into you because after all, they're doing what aggressive players do. They like to lead into you. They like to make bets. They like to make raises. This is what aggressive players do. You already know this. So what should you do in this situation? Well, a lot of players would sit here and say, well, you know, I've got an open-ended straight draw on this flop, which is exactly what we have here. On this flop of 8, ace, 5, we have the 7, 6. So if it comes with any of the 4 remaining 4s in the deck on the turn and river, or any of the 4 remaining 9s in the deck on the turn or river, we would make an unbeatable straight. However, we know that straights in poker are only going to come through roughly around 30% of the time, so we don't need to be math geniuses here, guys, to understand that just calling here is not going to be a profitable play for us over the long run. So what is the profitable pivot here, the strategy that we should be using instead? It's to mix in some raises with this draw versus an aggressive player who we know is on a bluff a large majority of the time here. So what do you do in this spot? Well, I just re-raise them right back. You don't have to have the nuts, guys, in poker in order to re-raise someone back. And the nuts, by the way, is just a slang term we use for the best hand possible, or one of the best hands possible. A lot of people have this mistaken idea these days that they have to have top pair or 3 of a kind or something super strong in order to re-raise. No, you don't. You can raise them right back with a draw, and what this is going to do is it's going to put tremendous pressure right back on this aggressive player to have something really strong here, and we know that doesn't happen very often. Most of the time they're just on a bluff themselves, and you can literally force them to fold their hand here when we have 7 high. And let's be clear, they almost certainly have us beat no matter what they have. So this is a massive win for us if they fold their hand, but even if they call, it's okay. We still have a strong draw, and we're going to continue applying the pressure on the turn and river as well. All right, let's move on to number 4 now, which is see the silver lining. So let me tell you guys that I have taken an unbelievable amount of bad beats over my nearly 20 years in this game of poker, most of it as a professional poker player. A bad beat, by the way, is when you enter a hand of poker as the statistical favorite and another player gets lucky against you. If you've played any amount of poker, I'm sure this has happened to you multiple times at this point. But what a lot of people do is they get it confused. They think that bad beats are, oh, I'm so unlucky, I'm cursed, all this. No, actually, I flipped the script. Bad beats mean that I'm in a good poker game. I actually like it when I'm getting a lot of bad beats because that tells me that I'm playing against other opponents who are making large, fundamental, mathematical mistakes. And as I always say, you can't fight the math in the long run, guys. In poker, life, anything, you're always going to lose when you fight the math. So if they keep making glaring mistakes like we're going to discuss right now, you're just going to be printing money in the long run. So let's give you an example. You raise it up with pocket rockets, pocket aces, best hand ever created, the ace of spades, ace of hearts, and one of our fish fishy friends calls. Now, we already talked about this player. This is the recreational player type. They're playing all sorts of junky, trashy hands. They might be half drunk at this point. Bottom line, guys, they just play the game for fun. They don't take the game seriously like you do. So the flop comes down with the 10 of hearts, 6 of diamonds, and 5 of spades. You make a bet, they call. Super standard situation. This is a pretty harmless board overall. There's a couple straight draws going on this board, but bottom line, we've got pocket aces. We're not specifically afraid of anything. And as we know, this is a recreational player. They can have literally anything on this board. So we're just betting for value here. And by the way, when I say value, that means we have a very strong suspicion that we have the best hand. So we're just trying to get paid. So the turn comes down with the queen of clubs. You make a bet once again, and they call. Once again, super standard spot, guys. There's not a whole lot else to say here. We have pocket aces, best hand ever created. There's no reason to think that on a 10-6-5 queen board that we're behind. And as I always say, if we are behind, you don't need to worry. They'll raise you. They'll let you know. What you want to be doing against a fishy player like this when you have pocket aces is just keep your foot on the gas pedal. Keep getting those value bets in. So the river comes down with the deuce of diamonds, a total and complete brick. All of the draws missed. There's almost no chance possible that this 2 helped them in any way. So you make another bet and they call, flipping over the 5 deuce. They hit the 2 pair on the river, chasing their bottom pair the entire way. Guys, this is what recreational players do. This is what fishy poker players do. They chase terrible hands like this and they get lucky sometimes. But we have to make peace with this fundamental aspect of the game. This is why the fishy players keep coming back for more. This is why they keep refilling their chip stack and coming and fueling your profits at the poker table. It's because they can get lucky like this sometimes. We need to accept this fundamental, beautiful fact about the game of poker and learn to live with it. Guys, bottom line, bad beats mean you're in a good poker game. You want to celebrate when you see somebody do something like this, because this is just going to mean more money in your pocket later on down the road. All right, number 5 is to get 3 streets of value versus the fish. Take them to value town. Let me give you an example once again. You've got ace queen offsuit, and when I say offsuit, that means 2 different suits. So we've got the ace of spades and the queen of hearts, and a fish calls you. So once again, recreational player playing all sorts of trashy, junky hands. Flop comes down with the 8 of hearts, queen of spades, and 4 of clubs. What should you do? Well, you already know. You should make a strong bet here. We have hit top pair, top kicker on this board versus a recreational player who can have literally anything in this situation, but they make the call. So the turn comes down with the 5 of clubs. Once again, you want to make another strong bet here. This is not the time to get tricky. This is not the time to get trappy or slow play or anything that you saw some famous poker player do in $1 million cash game. We're playing against a complete fish here who is not thinking on any deep level about the game. What you want to do when you have a strong hand here is simply make another strong bet and let them overthink the situation. Let them call with whatever trashy hand they have, and that's exactly what they do. So the river comes down with the king of diamonds. What should you do? Guys, you should make another strong bet here once again. Get 3 streets of value versus the fish every single time. Bet the flop, turn, and river. Do not get afraid when another overcard like the king here comes on the river. Guys, remember, they have so many junky hands. They're going to call you down here with any 8, any queen, any 4, any 5. Heck, sometimes if they've even got ace high here, they're going to call you down because that's what fish do. Don't leave money on the table. When you have a strong hand versus the fishy players, go bet, bet, bet every single time. And by the way, if you want to know my entire strategy to absolutely smash the small and mid stakes games, make sure you grab a copy of my free poker cheat sheet. I'll leave a link to that in the description below, and like and subscribe if you found this video helpful. All right, guys, all the best at the poker tables. I'll catch you in the next video.